No intro tonight. No intro tonight, bro. Just absolutely terrible. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Gilinsky of King James Gospel is joining me tonight in place of Corey Walsh. Dan, you've been on this show a million times. I love to open the show with the intro, but I can't do it tonight. I'm beyond disappointed, honestly. Um, just not a lot of words. I mean, tonight was do or die for this team, and the Cavs did not respond like many of us believed they would. It was frustrating as hell. After returning winless from their trip to Madison Square Garden, I thought the Cavaliers would show some grit, some determination, some heart. No, just did not happen. None of those things happened. If anything, they showed like they were ready to pack it up early, and that's what happened. I mean, the season is over. I'm going to try not to be so reactionary as I've seen some fans be and wanting sweeping changes to the whole roster, but I cannot lie. Some of the efforts out of specific players was just absolutely asinine tonight. And because of that, the Cavs lost this game and therefore suffered the dreaded gentleman sweep to the New York Knicks. So I just want to dig into the finer details of tonight's loss, beginning with the lineup itself. Isaac Okoro started the first two games of this series, barely played in game two after drawing some early fouls. That paved the way for Karis LeVert, who had a big game. That prompted JB to make a change heading into game three at the Garden, and there he would remain for the rest of the series. With that being said, my friend, do you agree with the starting lineup that JB wrote out there tonight?
I probably would say I do. I wasn't crazy on it from even when he did it initially. I just think it kind of makes the bench devoid of having that kind of spark. And given that he did it the last two, it would probably be thrown out of whack again if it were altered. I just personally, a lot of fans probably don't want to hear this, but I would have played the fro less. I mean, not exclusively that, because many probably would have been on board with that. But I would have played the fro less, like much earlier on, and gotten Stevens minutes at the four. I thought, frankly, tonight it took too long for Stevens to be in there.
Why the fuck did JB wait so long to put Stevens in the game?
I'm not going to be hammering JB as much as some others. I think he needs another season, or at least I don't know. I think he does. I think this was kind of a learning experience for him. As stupid as that sounds, it had to be. But they should have. There's tweaks throughout this game and others that needed to be made earlier rather than later, and they weren't. That was one of them. I thought he could have helped them. But the Brunson traps are like half traps. They played. This is gonna sound so cliche. They played heartless tonight, and heartless in the sense that they didn't have one. Not like they took it from somebody. Just terrible. Nothing else to say. Really terrible.
Perhaps no bigger indicator of that than the fact, get ready, Cavs fans, the Cavaliers were out-rebounded 60-2 to 35. 62.
I've never even heard of that before, honestly.
That's got to be some kind of record. I mean, at least in Cleveland. That's got to be man, I'm stumbling over my words. I'm so frustrated. It's just Mitchell Robinson grabbed 18 fucking rebounds, and most of them were of the offensive variety. It's just like, put a body on this motherfucker.
Okay, I'm just gonna say one thing. Shout out to the Cavs, the blog guys. Listen, like this is like a fan-sided podcast. I can't remember which one of them said if things started to get kind of dire.
Yeah.
That the Cavs should have gotten, like, I guess when the Knicks would be in the bonus, they should have done this earlier. They should have fouled probably to get in the bonus and then just played Hacker Robinson just to get him off the floor because we haven't been able to box him out. That should have probably been executed in the third. There should have been more drastic things tonight. They got outwilled. I mean, it's whatever corny things one wants to go with. whatever coach speak you want to say, that was all the series was. And of course tonight, what did I don't remember the exact percentage, but they almost through 3 quarters hit almost 50% of their threes, and they're down by 12. It's like, wow, of course, like for a time to hit those, great.
They just it took too damn long, bro.
And it wasn't the key guys hitting them either. It's like,
No, Jetty, Isaac, there's some of the guys that you would not. Jetty's been terrible this series from
yeah,
purely an offensive standpoint. He's held his own defensively at points, but he's
yeah,
been trash offensively. Prior to tonight, I want to say he was averaging like 25% from range. It's been ridiculously tough for him, and that's been the case for a number of guys on this roster. I mean, before tonight's game, you look past the points here. I'm just going to list them off. Prior to tonight, Donovan Mitchell averaged 22 points, 7.8 assists, 4.5 rebounds. But the fucking kicker here is that he shot 30.3% from three-point range and 43.6% from the field. Darius Garland, 20.5 points looks decent on paper. And, and 5.3 assists is fine, but 41.8% from the field is not going to cut it. Although he did shoot 44% from three-point range.
Well, realistically, the game 3 was that's going to skew things.
It buoyed.
I mean,
yeah,
to a large degree, but you're not wrong. It's not like he was just like dominating games. I just thought there were instances he should have been more aggressive, probably less aggressive than others. But I love Evan. I'm not going to totally grill him like some other people are going to, because defensively he's played really, really well. 6 field goal attempts tonight. 6. He took 6 shots.
I mean,
6?
Did you see that possession in which Mitchell Robinson, he went up for the dunk and Mitchell Robinson completely bodied him, just shut him down.
Yeah.
That was just indicative of the entire.
But what has been frustrating is go up strong. Mitchell Robinson he's a rim deterrent. Like, I don't deny that. But the guy walking off the bus when he's on the tarmac, he's committing a foul. Like, it's not hard to get him to play him off the floor. It's not difficult. Like, these are like basic rudimentary things that need to be stressed. The guy jumps on every pump fake. It is not difficult. It was so frustrating in this series. He is not the guy fouls walking off the tarmac. I'm not kidding. That was ridiculous. I don't understand. He's a really good, really, really good rebounder, and he's a valuable player. I don't want to discount Mitchell Robinson, but he is nothing offensively, nothing aside from at the basket, nothing. They should have played the hack game earlier. They probably should have done that throughout the series at times just to get him off the floor. And he's going to put you on the foul line. This should not have been that difficult. Like, you have to be willing to take hits to get to the foul line. All right, whatever. That's my rant. I apologize, but
Mitchell Robinson,
that was frustrating.
Just to wrap a bow around your point here, Mitchell Robinson prior to tonight had only been averaging 6.8 points and 7.8 rebounds. The blocks, they're there. He is a true rim deterrent, and he is converting on his looks because he's had a ton of putbacks off of second.
He's a great rebounder and great finisher. He plays with force. Is a big body in there. People probably laughed. It seemed like with the deal that he got, but he's a valuable player. I'm not denying that.
He does his role. And he knows his role.
He was far more valuable in the series than Julius Randle. I understand that he had the ankle. I hope the guy's okay. He was horrible this series. Like, this was the only game he really was even remotely effective. Like, he did nothing.
From an offensive standpoint.
He was awful offensively. He got some rebounds, yes, and he got some offensive rebounds, sure. Julius Randle is not close to the value of player in this series, and frankly, in a playoff scenario, as Mitchell Robinson. I know that sounds stupid at face value. Mitchell Robinson is far more impactful in playoff basketball, and Julius Randle's horrible defensively. He's nothing.
Mitchell Robinson
we lost the Cavs. We lost to Mitchell Robinson. That was the series. Him and Josh Hart on offensive rebounding. Like, we got legitimately 3 yard in a cloud of dusted out of the playoffs. I just can't. I can't believe it. Truly.
Mitchell by himself, more offensive rebounds than the entire Cavs. more heart, more hustle tonight than the entire roster. It's just fucking ridiculous. Like I'm trying to contain myself here. Like I said, I'm trying not to react too much, and I'm not going to blow up here. But tonight's performance, it was just pitiful. Like you wanted to see some heart, but I'm gonna step back here and I'm gonna get back to the script because obviously there are some key factors here that contributed to tonight's loss, and we're already talking about one of them, so we might as well get to it. It's been the offensive rebounding. Like we know how much of a key point this was in this series. And, the Cavs were out rebounded in every game during the regular season series against the Knicks, I believe. Out rebounded by a margin of 189 to 156 in the 4 regular season games, which it's been very much the same during this series where they've out rebounded the Cavs prior to tonight, 179 to 156. And it's no coincidence that the Cavs' lone victory prior to tonight happened in the game where they managed to win the battle of the boards. They didn't do that tonight. And most of that is tied up in the offensive glass, where that pretty much that's the real killer. Prior to game 5, Cleveland held New York to 42.8% from the field, including 27.5% from 3-point range. The Knicks can't hit shit. The Cavs defense has literally been as advertised. They actually held New York to the 3rd lowest amount of points in the postseason among the 16 qualifying teams at just 98 points per game. But there obviously are 2 problems related to this that we'll address. And the first is that despite holding them to such a low percentage and a low point total, they just could not keep them from scoring second chance points. And prior to tonight, the Cavs surrendered 71 fucking second chance points to the Knicks. That's the 4th most in the playoffs, behind only the Los Angeles Clippers, Atlanta Hawks, and Philadelphia 76ers. It's just flat out tough to win games when you cannot limit extra possessions. And with all that in mind, Dan, we clearly saw that nothing changed tonight. Was it just Mitchell Robinson? Did he just beat the Cavs mentally and physically so badly that they just didn't want to go up?
Well, that is part of it. The amount of 1-on-3 contested rebounds he had with ease were just they're just flabbergasting. Like I don't understand what exactly happened there. It's like the positioning is being grilled. It's not exactly that was so bad. He was just getting so many like tips but the key, our own Josh Cornelison, sorry, wrote recently how, I think this was prior to the last game, how Josh Hart, for example, even Emmanuel Quickly, but Hart in particular we were just getting the wings were just not helping much as far as rebounding. And obviously Jay had 9 rebounds in the 2 New York games. He was invisible. He was just, it was a disappearing act. He didn't do anything in that way. But it wasn't, people are saying a lot of the time when they bring up rebounding, size. It really was not. It was about positioning and timing. I mean, it's not like Josh Hart is really
Josh Hart
tall.
had the second most rebounds tonight, Dan. He had 12 rebounds. That's the second among both
can't
teams.
Happen. You cannot allow Josh Hart to have 12 rebounds. In the first game, he had 10. And then in game 4, just made hustle play after hustle play. We got hustle played to death. And the credit to them, they made some key shots. Obi Toppin has played really well in this series.
Yes.
Has played far better than Julius Randle. I'm not kidding. When Julius Randle got hurt, I know he had a good first half. Watching that, I was thinking that's the nail in the coffin. This game is over because Obi Toppin is going to be playing over him, and he's going to play far better. Especially on the other end of the floor, he's going to get rebounds. He's going to get leak outs. When Obi Toppin made that transition dunk that could have been it was kind of like a highlight reel dunk. The game was over. It was done. Yeah, that was it. I mean, it was over. Nothing else to say.
What else can you say in regard, bro? 6'5" Josh Hart out rebounded 2 7-footers.
Well, he took our heart. He took our heart.
He did. I mean,
it's very simple, which is very frustrating, but just tough to see.
It was very, just very tough to watch. And again, we're talking about a Knicks team here that is not an extremely efficient team. They only on the night 43.5% from the field, 31% from 3-point range. They're not overly efficient. They never have been. They just capitalize so fucking much on these offensive rebounds and second chance points. And the Cavs, we've said it all season long. We've said it heading into this series even. We knew this is going to be an issue because the Cavs lack depth at the 4 and 5 spots. And to be honest with you, Jared Allen, to me, although I'm not in the camp of saying ship the guy out of town like a lot of people are, he just did not show me that he was tough at all tonight. He looked soft as shit out there for most of the game. And I hate to say that because I love Jared Allen. I mean, he's a very, very likable player. But, as Dr. Claw points out down here, the defense, and a lot of that was Jared Allen tonight, when he would literally leave Mitchell Robinson to get a board to go out and play some help D. And that was part of the reason why Mitchell was able to snag so many of those boards. But Jarrett just didn't show a lot. And he just, frankly, at points during the series, looks like he didn't want to be out there. I don't know. Maybe something will come out. I'm hoping not, because, I don't want any excuses or anything like that. But this has just been flat out disheartening to watch, just because I feel like this Cavaliers team, bro, like, correct me if I'm wrong, and if you felt otherwise heading into this series, Cavs more talented team. The Knicks might be deeper, but the Cavs, in my opinion, had the more talent in this series. And we know talent does not always win out. It means nothing if you're not playing on one accord and you're not really utilizing it to your strengths. So I feel like going into this series that Cleveland should have won this. And my prediction was 7 games. I knew they would lose a few, but I did not see, for the life of me, a 5-game, a gentleman's sweep. I did not see this ending in 5 games on Cleveland's home turf. Just very disheartening. I didn't get a chance to speak with you prior to the season's to the series starting. How many games did you have this going, and did you have the Cavs winning?
I thought it'd be 6 or 7. I guess I thought home court. I'm actually not somebody that's huge on home court, really making like as huge of a difference as some others. But I thought it would have mattered, and I thought I definitely thought the Cavs would win in 7 at minimum. I thought, like, I picked in 6 realistically, but like I thought they'd be able to get 1 in Manhattan. I thought they were going to be able to get 1. But just not. I didn't see this coming. I really didn't. Yeah, I thought the Cavs were marginally better, but I just didn't think they'd get bodied this much. I really didn't see that. I thought if we were going to lose, I thought it'd be kind of more like the Knicks made some like key baskets tonight. I mean, I thought their bench, like I thought guys like Quickly, maybe Toppin in theory might have been the difference on the margins, but I just didn't think I just didn't think we'd lose demonstrably, like in terms of I mean, rebounding was a concern, but I just didn't think it would be like such an overwhelming like majority this whole
62
like
to
most of the
35.
time. I just it's just mind blowing. I mean, I guess I didn't see the Knicks being as on our home floor like that. I didn't. Like the first game, okay. Like I was actually very concerned about game 1. I thought we might have like major jitters in that situation, as some teams do. But this, I just it was terrible. And people are going to blame JB. He deserves some blame. I am not denying that at all. But I just I just didn't see the offensive rating for us being this bad in this series. I didn't see it. But I'm not a Tibbs guy, but credit to him. I mean, he got bodied by LeBron X amount of times, so. But he did a really good job in the series, and those Brunson traps the last 3 games did nothing. They didn't do anything, and they were not forceful enough. The Cavs in the series lost the 4-on-3 battles. Like they lost. The Knicks made plays out of 4-on-3s. Credit to them. The Cavs didn't, and it's just unfortunate because this game they actually hit their threes, and this was every bit as bad of a performance to me as the game 3. It was every bit as bad because they did not play with any fortitude, just none, 0. So, well, it is what it is.
At the end of the day, man, you got to score more points than the other team, and the Cavs just have failed to do that all series long. I mean, the other point to what we were talking about earlier in regards to those, the offensive rebounding and limiting the Knicks to such a low point total, that doesn't mean shit if you can't score yourself. Holding the Knicks to 98 points, that's great. That's terrific defense. But prior to tonight's game, the Cavs are only scoring 94 points per game themselves on 44.5% from the field, including a very, very shitty 30.8% from distance. It was just terrible to watch. And tonight, like you pointed out, that kind of changed. They actually were halfway decent offensively for a fair deal of the game in regards to shooting the ball, at least 46.7% from the field, 39.4% from three-point range, by far their best game in that regard. But the stat sheet, obviously, when you look at this box score, is not going to make you feel any better. And it just all boiled down, at least tonight, the fucking rebounding battle. And that was the nail in the coffin. You cannot surrender a collective 30 rebounds between Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart. Those two almost out rebounded Cleveland on their own. If that gives anybody a more clear example, Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson nearly out rebounded Cleveland by themselves. And it's just, I don't know. Now we're going to have to go through an entire offseason of chatter over whether or not JB Bickerstaff should be fired. Should we trade Jared Allen? Should Isaac Okoro be moved? There's just going to be a ton of questions, and I get it. Some of them will be valid. I can't sit up here and say, and I'm going to ask you your opinion. I cannot definitively say that they're not entitled to their beliefs on JB being fired after losing in 5. But, I'm not necessarily in agreement. I think I would give him one more season. He's also learning. This is a new playoff environment for him. He did get outcoached. No lie. Tom Thibodeau, with much more experience, easily outcoached him. Although JB did make some timely adjustments and, at a few different moments throughout this series, especially game 2. But I think you already said it earlier, but I just want to get you to reiterate it. If faced with the question of firing JB Bickerstaff, and I know some of this is going to be tied to, well, who else is available? Because we just saw Ime Udoka get picked up by Houston, and there's just not a lot of big names left out there. What is your thought process on JB Bickerstaff moving forward?
Well, you said it. I think it's one more year. These playoffs have a lot of bearing. That's totally valid. The pitchforks are going to be out. That's clear. I mean, they already are. They probably have been.
Rightfully so. They've been out all season long, but rightfully so at this point.
But I will say they need to get shooters. This is going to sound silly as well. Maybe they should have given Sam Merrill a run tonight. I'm not kidding.
Some people suggested that. I wouldn't.
Maybe they should
have.
I don't know. Like, at least if he hits 1-3, spaces the floor a little bit. I mean, Donovan Darius, all things considered, I don't think played that bad tonight. They were playing in like a 2x2 phone booth, even with the Cavs hitting threes. It might have done something. Watching this game, or really this series, though, I do come back. This is bad, but it's just really. I just kept thinking, wow, if Dylan Windler could actually ever be on the floor, like that's the kind of player that really could have made a difference. Like, obviously, this is all hypothetical stuff, but they need floor spacing. Clearly, that is so obvious. They need guys that can be flamethrowers. Not being able to get Malik Beasley. I know hasn't had a good series, but
yeah,
he would have. He would have helped. Again, I'm not going to blame Karras. He actually played pretty well.
Karras has had a good series, bro. Outside of one game. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Like, but the Fro, I gotta say, he didn't help his cause. Like, he was more the concern in the series than JB. He got bodied. I mean, there's nothing else to say. And unfortunately, I like JA. I really think
Me
like
too.
Naz Reid would be a good ad. They need a backup big that can really, actually be playable. I mean, sorry, Rolo,
Thoughts on
dude,
Khalifa Diop being
pick
brought
up a new
over?
hobby. But they he has been bodied by some better centers in throughout the season. I hate to say it because he was so instrumental for our defense and the success there.
Mhm.
But that was more telling than the JB thing, just because he played so timid, and especially like offensively, like play with force. Like you got to do like those. I'm sick of those lefty push shots. Like, and then he was shooting them lefty when he
Same.
didn't have to. It's like, dude, you have some pretty good footwork. Get your head down and put the ball in the glass, and don't be afraid. The Cavs, to me, whether they'll say, obviously, won't be said publicly. They looked scared to get to the free throw line to me, and that was a problem. And they got to get a real guy, either a real bucket getter in the offseason,
At the
or
5 or just
no, I'm just
overall?
saying for like the bench.
Yeah.
But realistically, either that or you improve on the margins with like a backup big that can actually like be an offensive guy you can rely on for something.
Yeah.
But the spacing was a key issue, and the other problem is, I mean, your FTS guys have hit on this. Danny Green should have gotten some run in the regular season before the playoffs. Like, he should have. I understand that he was coming off the injury, clearly, but that couldn't have helped JB's confidence with the lack of run he had. Like, there are things that you could see, like the writing was on the wall
Yeah.
looking back in that stuff. So I'm not having the pitchfork out, but if JB listens to JA trade offers, I mean, nobody would be shocked at this point. So,
I mean, it's going to come up, and I think it's going to be something that you're going to have to take a serious look at if it gives you a serious upgrade. And I don't want to ship Jay out of town. I'll be the first to say that. I know a lot of people are suggesting that, hey, if you can trade JA for a quality 3-and-D wing, somebody to really start at that 3, and then maybe get somebody who can still give you pretty significant run at the starting 5 position, then that's a win. And it to that, I'd say it depends upon the return. It would highly depend upon the player that you're receiving in return. This has been an abysmal series for Jared Allen. There's no lie. They just completed the stats for tonight in the series. All in total, Jared Allen 9.4 points, 7.4 rebounds, 61.1% from the field. But bro, when you're taking 6 shot attempts, I mean, 6 shot attempts tonight and 3 in game 3, it just play with a little bit more gusto, play with a little bit more heart. I mean, the man literally finished with 4s across the board, 4 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists tonight. That cannot happen.
oh no, that's as bad as you can get.
That
Nobody's
is
going to be that mad in this kind of situation if he's taking more than more shots. Like, I don't know exactly what they're gonna have to probably get 3 guys in return if they did something
yeah.
with him, but this is coming from me, for the record. We would have been better. I cannot believe I'm actually saying these words. We would have been better maybe in this series with Andre Drummond.
I
That is
saw some people
pathetic.
suggest that tonight.
I cannot believe I'm saying those words.
Andre's
But
not
it's
he's never
actually
been a
true.
bad player though, man. He's just like he got a lot of shit obviously because he just played
Well,
like he didn't
Drummond
play
is
the
kind of
player.
the issue going forward. Like, he will get to the free throw line. He'll get offensive
He'll
rebounds.
get
Unlike
rebounds
Mitchell
out the ass.
Robinson, he won't finish them, is kind of the problem. And he shoots a hell of a lot more than he should.
Yeah.
But if you get him in a vacuum in this kind of situation, he could help. I mean, at least maybe they look at bringing him back in the offseason. I don't see it, but the lack of playable like backup bigs was so bad. And of course, you got to think Kevin Love's saw that and just smiling. Like you have to think.
He's in a position right now to move on to the second round. So
Kevin
obviously
Love is going to have a deeper playoff run than the Cavs. Like,
that stings. And I was definitely on the board of like not trade him, but if he walked out the door, whatever. But clearly that has hurt us tremendously. Even if Kevin Love was not shooting the ball tremendously well, he still can rebound. He's still a body that you can put out there, and I'll be the first to admit, should not have let him go, man. That's probably the first time that I've said that, and I gotta get that off my chest because that shit it's coming back to bite us. One of the rare misses at this point, I feel, from Kobe, who's been pretty great in his tenure, as president of basketball operations, but just not something that is going to sit well in my stomach. And like I said, man, we got to go through a whole fucking off season now of chatter about all these different things. We're going to look and consider about different trades. We're going to see about different free agents that can be brought in. I've heard like
Mo Bamba. I'd love Mo Bamba in here. He can
I would
shoot
too.
it. Mo Bamba can shoot it. That's like the other end of the spectrum, but they need in a backup guy and a backup big. They need a guy that can actually beat an offensive threat, like somewhat. Like that's the other end of the spectrum that
I mean,
you need to have.
stretch four,
We can't
stretch
have
five.
like another veteran presence guy in the backup big this season. We can't have that. Like you're past that at this point.
We're past that.
We're past the
Davises and Robin
culture
Lopez
stuff.
of the world.
Like and Rolo, props to him. Like had an impressive career. I mean, lasting this long as a player of his ilk is impressive, really. But this was just not great. It really exposed some things. I mean, that's fair
It
to say.
highlighted your biggest needs if you didn't already know them. Like
we knew them before.
Yeah.
We knew the Cavs were flawed. That's fair to say. I just thought, like you stated, the top end talent I thought was going to make enough of a difference that they'd be able to win 4-2. But it just actually figures because, of course, if they won the series, they could very well be playing the 8 seed in the second round. Like the Cavs, in theory,
the path was there.
Could have had a real path. So
the path to at least the East Finals was possible.
Granted, if they played anybody who plays Boston is probably going to get waxed because of their versatility. But I mean, I don't know. Seeing the Cavs like match up in a playoff series with Derek White and like bench units would just be not great. But not good. This was very, very, like you said, disheartening. That's really the best way to describe the series. Disheartening. So.
Yeah, and now we got to sit with that for the rest of the offseason. Taylor Haston down there says,
he's on. You know what? He's on it
true.
with that one too. That could have helped. Yep.
Would you think about trying to see what Dylan Brooks? Would you bring in a Dylan?
I knew
Brooks?
you were going to bring it up.
I mean, how can I not? He's like one of the biggest dicks in the NBA.
Oh no, it's not so far fetched. I mean, and at this point, here's the other thing: is his value is going to be as low as it possibly could have been.
Shit, he did that to himself.
Yeah, he did that to himself. Why he was still shooting, I have no clue. There's a reason why you're open. But yeah, I mean, they need somebody kind of like that that's going to be in the fray. I mean, at this point,
would you get a Pat Bev? Maybe
he's got Bev. That's another one. I'd love Bev in here. Unfortunately, Ricky Rubio. I am a Rubio guy. I've always been a fan of him. Such a fun passer to watch, but he's got to be done. Like they kind of have to move him. I mean, he just doesn't move. He doesn't move how he was. And I know, like you have said over and over, athleticism, not his strength, but he has looked as like immobile as possible in his minutes, unfortunately. So you need a real backup big at minimum and a real backup like lead guard that, yeah, it can be a pass, sure, but can at least hit some open threes. I mean, Bev can do that. And like you have said, like he's always going to light fire under your team's ass. So there's a lot of things that Kobe's got away. I mean, the job for him now, this is going to be the by far hardest offseason of his career by far and away. I mean, this is okay, maybe not the Kyrie offseason, but it's kind of at the point where it's like, all right, well, where the hell do the Cavs go from here? Because there's a lot of questions. It's not going to be necessarily easy either.
I don't think that you're going to be able to answer all of them this offseason either. And I think that's going to be the tough thing. I think with what you have
Oh
to
no, you
work
won't.
with, the assets that you have available, cap space, all that good stuff, you're going to have to pick and choose your battles here. Like I personally, I don't think they're going to have enough to upgrade the small forward. I think we walk into next season with Isaac Okoro or Karis LeVert starting.
You got to think
I
it'd have to be sign and trade. It'd have to
Yeah,
be right.
you're going to have to ship some pieces out that they probably don't want to do. So we're looking at moves on the margin here where, I mean, it can be done. There's things that can be done, but it would require some drastic move to be made. And I just don't see that happening. I think
Maybe
that they
Torrey
should.
Craig. I think you could maybe target a guy like that.
Yeah, I mean that'd be a
Possible.
good one. I like the name Bismack Biyombo. If we're talking about a guy who can go out there and rebound, defend, he can still block shots with at a pretty decent rate, and he can still rebound. I mean, JaVale McGee, you look at bringing him back.
Mhm.
I mentioned earlier, I like Khalifa Diop. I
Yeah,
like the idea of
he's a
bringing
guy
him over.
you should give a look. I think. Yeah,
And
definitely. You know what though? I I think really in the closing stretch of the season, well, well, obviously it's
what
the
Diakite or
eligibility. No, I was
Mobley?
just gonna say Isaiah Mobley,
Yeah,
like next year, I like needs like a legit look. Like he has real offensive skill set and has some stretch game. Uh, like they need to think this off season. They have to really prioritize offense. It's very clear. They just have to get guys in the margins that obviously can make winning plays, but
yeah,
there's got to be guys that they can just rely on and say, I know I'm getting from player X. That's
uh-huh.
my seventh, eighth guy night to night tonight. And I know that's hard to say in a vacuum. It sounds great, but there's guys that they can figure it out. The Kobe can. It's just they're going to have to make some decisions. Guys are going to have to be shipped out, and probably a few going to have to bring in some new bodies, new blood. But I think the leadership is there in this group
Yeah,
at the key spots. I think it is. And I'm not saying I want Jay gone. I just think they need to be very harsh and blunt with him about what he needs to work on in the offseason. He needs to do, like, there are times when you see, like, there's opportunities where he gets the ball and wants to make a play out of the short roll. It's like, okay, like, he's a much improved passer, but you have got to be able to make those, like, Nikola Vucevic shots in that pocket. You have to be able to do that. It's not that hard. I mean, for, like, the guy can make those. He just needs to be willing. You need to be more daring as a shooter. That is the problem. He has to be a shooter, period. And they need to tell him that. And that's on JB because he's not allowing him to do it. Clearly, you have to think. So
for me, like for Allen, like some of those things can be worked on. I don't necessarily think you can just all of a sudden, develop a heart, in regard not develop a heart, but develop heart and develop hustle and grit and whatnot. I think that's just something that's innately in you, or it isn't. And I just think for better or worse, I just don't think he's that kind of guy. And does that mean that he's a bad player? No. He's an exceptionally talented guy for his role. He plays his role pretty well most of the time. It's why he was in the All-Star game last season. But, in at times like this in a playoff environment when they slow the pace down, when they pack the paint tremendously, you have to be able to space the floor. Obviously, Mobley is still a work in progress in that regard, and Jared Allen, until he starts to want to be able to be more physical in there, you're not going to be able to offset that. They're just going to take advantage of that. One of the things I did want to ask you though, man, because we already know there's some people who shall not be named that are probably chomping at the bit right now to talk
fire him.
shit
Sorry.
about the Cleveland Cavaliers and this trade. Do you consider this? I asked Corey this just the other day, and I think we're on agreement here. It's kind of hard to separate what happened in this series from the overall, like the future and the timeline here. But do you consider this season to be a failure?
I don't. I thought it is in the sense that I really thought they would win multiple playoff games. I really do. But it wasn't, to me, really tipping the scales in that way. Like, I thought the ceiling would be one series win, uh, but no, I don't think it was. He won 50 games. Um, I think they were in the top, like, first and then eighth in offensive rating. So no, I can't say there was a failure, but I think going in, even in the closing stretch of the season, the Cavs did fine, but there were some losses that you felt like, okay, this is not great. There's some issues here underlying. And the bench that was just the clear weak link. And we're not at, given the inexperience this team had, they need more there, and they need more proven guys, is I think the what we're looking at. But even I do think like this draft pick is not like completely like throwaway. Like a lot of people probably think that, but you could maybe help in potential trades using future picks, which I would imagine is definitely in the cards. But they just need to get more guys that are like viable offensively in that are like in the rotation. And I like Jetty, always will be a Jetty guy, but they need
Yeah.
guys that are more consistent, at least, and have like one legit skill they're elite at off the bench. Like I think just for Kobe, that's got to be apparent at this point. And I keep coming back to Reed. He's a dude that he can do work against like
Talking
bench
about in
bigs.
Philly?
On Minnesota, sorry,
Oh, okay. Okay.
not as Reed.
Gotcha.
I think he was injured in the playoffs. I don't think he's played. I think it was like prior to that too, but I believe he'll be unrestricted. That's a guy I'll look at. But they just this hurts because I didn't think the Cavs would be losing due to fortitude. I honestly didn't. I thought it'd be like New York's bench skill set would be the
Yeah.
issue. That's a little, like you said, like disheartening. But I don't think it's not something I necessarily saw in the season. That's what was weird. So I'm not. It could have just been like the Cavs were kind of just the moment was too big. That's possible, but they need forwards that, as this Tune In Sports one guy said, can be real difference makers. Have length. That's key.
Cavs don't have a
But
true small forward on the roster, in my
no, they
opinion.
don't. They don't. That's obviously one of the things, but I don't know. Kobe's going to have to work his magic again. I don't think it's necessarily the case that he won't, but it's LeVert being back is not necessarily like the shoe-in thing. I think some might think, but we'll see. I value what he brings. It's just, oh man, I miss Lowry. I gotta say it.
I was waiting on.
God, he's just so good. Like,
I mean, yeah, we all love Lowry. I mean, it would
yeah.
be
Obviously,
it would be
like
nice.
I am not one of those people that say we shouldn't do the trade. We shouldn't do. I'm not gonna play that game. It's just they need legit small forward skill set. That's clear.
Yeah,
So
I think though they will figure it out. I think it's just going to be a tough offseason, tough decisions to be made. Honestly, I think Karras is going to be brought back. I think they kind of boxed themselves into a corner with that
I
one.
think they will too, or will
Um,
bring him. But
and
I think
so
it could mean Ice is gone.
it's completely possible. You know, you guys know. I mean, I really have harped on Isaac Okoro all season long. I love Isaac, but I've also never been opposed to moving on from Isaac if it means a true upgrade. I just don't see that happening. So I see like next season, I think your starting five and your sixth man is set with Karras or Isaac, whatever they decide in that regard. I think at least those six players are pretty set. I think you got to move on from Ricky. I think Jetty is still a safe bet to be brought back, although his deal is non-guaranteed. I want to say his final year is non-guaranteed. And then that's, from at that point, I don't know what decisions you're going to make. Dean Wade, a guy who was thought of to, be able to step in that Kevin Love role and provide in a la a floor spacer, stretch four kind of guy, did not pan out. He got played off the floor. Lamar Stevens, we love Lamar Stevens' heart and hustle. He should have played more in this series, but the question marks will always remain until he can knock down the three ball. Then you go further past that, Robin Lopez will be gone. You have your two ways and you're going to have to make some decisions on them. personally, your stretch forward need, I think Isaiah Mobley could scratch that itch for you. I think he could possibly suit up at that role. And then the backup five. If the Cavs enter this next season without a quality backup center, I'm gonna lose my mind, bro.
Yeah, it's assuredly needed.
You got to get it. As TuneIn says down here as well, I would give Sam Merrill a shot heading into
He
next
needs
season.
a legit shot. He really does. Yes, like
Same, like
458%. Like he needs it. This is his time for sure.
I mean, what better? Like it's now or never in that regard. If you need cheap talent off the bench, you're going to have to make moves on the margin. Why not give him a shot? And you're also going to have to look at bringing in a quality addition as well. I think they will. Hell, I mean, they could end up bringing Luke Travers over for all we know. There's just
didn't he get wasn't there like a 3-year extension or something like with his club?
With
I don't know
Perf,
exactly.
I don't know how that works.
What the specifics were, but I would assume that it has an NBA out. I was just gonna say him too. Like he's a dynamic.
I like Travers. He's a playmaker, man.
Yeah, he's a dynamic player, but I just don't know. Like they're gonna have to divvy out the minutes. I would imagine that there's got to be 2 wings that like in the rotation that are gone. Like there has to be. I'm not saying like whether it's my opinion or not. I'd just be shocked if they weren't. At this point.
They're gonna have to be. I mean, we got a long off season to talk about all this stuff, but to go out tonight like we did.
No, I cannot believe we let. I loved Hart. You were a Hart guy for sure too.
I was. I wrote some articles about him.
I mean, he is obviously the name. Like
he showed it. I mean, the stats are not always going to reflect it, but Hart,
he's one of the best rim deterrents in the league this season too.
He was, and he was out hustling the Cavs for boards all this series, which, to me, I get it. Like, obviously we all wanted Hart to be resigned, but to me, I'm of the mindset that obviously, in my opinion, if you would have retained Hart, the Cavs would have not been in position to get Evan, because I think they would have won a few more games.
Yeah, maybe it's possible.
But I'm happy to see him doing well, objectively.
Yeah.
It's just, to watch him. To watch a guy like him, beat our ass on some of the key points, it just hurts. Same thing with Josh Hart. A lot of people wanted Josh Hart. I was not a huge Josh Hart fan prior to the trade deadline, but he's played very good basketball since arriving in New York.
Yeah, I mean he's a winning player. That's really the moniker. It's been for every level for him, and he was solid with Portland. I mean, he was good.
Yeah.
But I just didn't think like playoff difference maker. I guess like if he does this again in another round, I mean, man, is that guy gonna get paid? But it's just the lack of urgency in this game, the last 2 games, it's just not good. Not great. But we'll have to see. Who knows?
Yeah. Time will tell. I think that's a good stopping point for us before I lose my mind here. A lot of evaluation to be done. The season is over for the Cavs today, but the off season just started, so there's a lot of work to do. We'll see what Kobe Altman has up his sleeve. Hopefully, it's something big. I'm gonna urge you guys, not to be too reactionary. This season as a whole, tremendous success from the regular season standpoint. 51 games, that's no small feat, considering, in my opinion, they did it mostly without a bench. To win 51 games mostly off the backs of 5 to 6 players, that's pretty big stuff. And to all the people out there that think that, this team is going to end up being like a continual first round exit, or this is like the ceiling for this Cavs team, no. That the collective age of the group of players that we have right now, if you factor in Isaac Okoro, is something like 23.4. They're a very young group. There's still a lot of internal development to be had. I'm excited about the future. I'm just heavily disappointed about how the season ended. That's where I'm at, man. That being said, Like we always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to us, you can at It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you'd like to be added to the exclusive It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to itscavalier53@gmail.com. Damn, that's like the first time I've not fucked up on that in like, I don't know, 10 episodes. So it feels good. Maybe it's because Corey's not here. But yeah, go Cavs. We're in for a long off season. Don't get discouraged and tune in for more.
Sam Merrill breakout next year for Jackson Flickinger.